بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه من والاه. Uh, we stopped last time by verse number 27 of Surat Al Hajj. So inshallah we proceed from there. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأذن في الناس بالحج يأتوك رجالا وعلى كل ضامر يأتين من كل فج عميق ليشهدوا منافع لهم ويذكروا اسم الله في أيام معلومات على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فكلوا منها وأطعموا البائس الفقير ثم ليقضوا تفثهم وليوفوا نذورهم وليطوفوا بالبيت العتيق ذلك ومن يعظم حرمات الله فهو خير له عند ربه وأحلت لكم الأنعام إلا ما يتلى عليكم فاجتنبوا الرجس من الأوثان واجتنبوا قول الزور. صدق الله العظيم. This passage is quite dense, and I want to look at the translation today, because much of what we're going to cover today is to do with translation. I'm using Abdul Halim's translation here, and it says, "Proclaim the pilgrimage to all people. They will come to you on foot and on every kind of swift mount, emerging from every deep mountain pass. To attain benefits and celebrate God's name on specified days over the livestock He has provided for them. Feed yourselves and the poor and unfortunate. So let the pilgrims perform the acts of cleansing, fulfill the vows, and circle around the ancient house. All this is ordained by God. Anyone who honors the sacred ordinances of God will have good rewards from his Lord. Livestock have been made lawful to you, except for what has been explicitly forbidden. Shun the filth of idolatrous beliefs and practices, and shun false utterances." Of course, the passage is obviously on the rituals of Al Hajj, which involves, as the verses say here, remembrance of Allah, sacrificing, and then shaving, fulfilling one's vows, and circling around the Kaaba. What I'm struck by in this passage is the language, really. Sorry. Thank you. Perhaps the Quran's usage of the term لِيَشْهَدُوا, and often we translate لِيَشْهَدُوا as to witness, but witness, of course, is definitely one of the key meanings of yashhad, but also to be present to literally be present when something is taking place. um, to indicate the spiritual presence of the person. Um, and the terms or the words al-ba'is, al-faqir. So كلوا منها وأطعموا البائس الفقير. Eat of this sacrificial animals and feed al-ba'is and feed al-faqir. This raises the question of something known in Quranic studies as al-mutaradifat. Al-mutaradifat literally is, the synonyms. What does synonym mean? What is a synonym?
A different words that have the same.
Exactly. Different words, 2, 3 words that have the same meaning. Does the Quran have synonyms? Is a really old question in Quranic studies. We have two classical groups or two classical camps. One is we can call them the synonyms group, if you like. It's the scholars that believe the Quran has synonyms. And like I said, a synonym, just we have two words, they mean essentially the same thing. There is no difference. The more established view in Quranic studies says the Quran uses this mechanism. So al-ba'is in this case and al-faqir are just the same thing. Al-ba'is, Abdul Halim translates al-ba'is wal-faqir he as the poor and the unfortunate. Some more common translation perhaps, the poor and the needy. What's the difference between the poor and the needy? Essentially the same thing. So the more established view in Quranic studies believes the Quran does use synonyms. These are words that have the same meaning. There is no essential difference between al-ba'is wal-faqir. They both indicate poverty. So they both mean the same thing. And therefore, the word for synonyms in Arabic is al-mutaradifat. That school believes the Quran has mutaradifat, has synonyms. And the key function of these synonyms is they provide this what we can call the stylistic variation. When a speech or something repeats the same words, it gets boring. So when you use different words, they enrich the language and they minimize the repetition. Repetition is definitely one of the deficiencies in any language. When you keep repeating the same words, it does show how limited the vocab that you have are. So the Quran is saying this is a very rich language that can express one thing in different ways because it's very rich. Right? That's the point of the mutaradifat, of that school that believes the Quran has synonyms. The key function or the key purpose behind this is this stylistic variation. It diversifies the way we express, the ways we express things. It also shows the richness of the language. It can express one thing in different ways. The second perspective, the second view, obviously it says no, none synonyms. There is no, every single word in the Quran has a specific meaning. So there is a difference between al-ba'is and al-faqir, and we just have to trace and see what the difference is. And every single word the Quran uses it for a purpose, and not just for stylistic variation. And the key idea of this school is simply precision. The Quran is so precise, so every single word matters, and the Quran uses this specific word for a specific meaning. The thing is, when the Quran says al-ba'is, when you sacrifice an animal as part of the rituals of Hajj, feed al-ba'is, it doesn't say feed the ba'is and the faqir. It actually says feed the ba'is, the faqir. We don't have an and here. This and joins the two words. So the verse is saying feed the poor, the needy. It's as if the second word here explains the first word. Why? Because it doesn't use and, which seems to support this perspective. As if it is saying al-ba'is is the faqir. It didn't say أطعموا البائس والفقير, feed the poor, feed the ba'is and feed the faqir. It actually says feed the ba'is the faqir. So we're talking about the same thing. That's one of the reasons this school would say there is no difference between the ba'is and the faqir. They both mean the same thing. We're talking about poor people. Look for them as you do in Hajj and feed them. This school would actually say no, there is a difference between the ba'is and the faqir. The ba'is is someone who is visibly poor, and the faqir is someone, just one point before we move to this, one can ask, like, what's the point? Why does the Quran use another word? The Quran could have just said al-ba'is and that's it, if it means the same thing. The answer that you would get most of the time is the word al-faqir has become so common in Arabic that it doesn't evoke you anymore. It's more like a label that you really want a word that expresses the suffering of the person that you're donating or you're feeding. So al-ba'is does this job. It moves you. You feel that it has this power to it, as opposed to the word al-faqir, which is a very common word. So it doesn't move you anymore. This school would actually trace more specific differences. So they would say al-ba'is is someone who's visibly poor, that you can tell is suffering. Al-faqir, someone that you can't tell, it's invisible, who's lacking resources, but he's not as visible as the ba'is. These two views really dominate the Quran. Like when you come to recite the Quran, you will find a lot of words that are used in these ways, and you either have someone who belongs to this school or someone who belongs to that school. Someone who says we really have to trace the differences and see what the difference is between al-ba'is wal faqir. It's a very challenging task. Or someone who says, essentially the same thing. And if you know Arabic, you would know Arabic does use this. One of the challenges that Arabic, by definition, is a very rhetoric-based language. It's very rich rhetorically. It uses a lot of metaphor. So I wouldn't be surprised if one subscribes to this school very easily, because that's the nature. Naturally, this is your space, because the language is so rich with words. I am more inclined to the second school, in the sense that precision as well matters, in as much as variation matters. But in a minute, I will share what I really think the case is. But this really runs across the Quran. Another example we can think of is literally the second verse in Surah Al-Baqarah. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. What does this mean? This is the book in which there is no doubt. Right? That's the word the Quran uses for doubt. Raib. But there's another word for raib as well that the Quran uses. That is the word shak. Shak also means doubt. Are we talking about the same thing? And actually the Quran uses both, uses both in reference to the Quran itself. So it says in this verse, this is the book in which there is no doubt. If you carry on in Surah Al-Baqarah, you would come across this verse in the first quarter of Surah Al-Baqarah that says, وإن كنتم, that's another raib. وإن كنتم في ريب وإن كنت في شك مما أنزلنا إليك. If you are in doubt about what we've revealed to you, and in numerous places the Quran uses the word shak in relation to the Quran. So is there a difference between raib and shak? They both definitely involve a sense of doubt. Naturally, if you belong to this school, you would say it's the same thing. If you are in doubt, and the Quran is just diversifying the language to serve the variation. This school would actually focus more on the difference, as in they both agree, they would emphasize that the difference between shak and raib in the sense that shak is less powerful than raib. As in, raib is not just doubt, it is doubt with suspicion. Like, was it, Ali, did you say suspicion? Yeah. So it's doubt with suspicion. Someone who is suspicious of something else, and a sense of anxiety as well about it. While shak is not as suspicious, does not involve that sense of suspicion. Another example we can think of is how the Quran uses, that's a famous one, the word am and the word sana. They both mean year, right? This school would say there is no difference between am and sana, they both mean the same thing. This school would say no, am, if you trace the Quran, you would find that am is often associated with prosperity, good moments, and sana is often associated with, poverty and difficult situations. This school saves precision, but it compromises consistency. It's not always consistent. That's what makes this very challenging, a very challenging exercise. As in, there will be areas in the Quran, there will be verses in the Quran that wouldn't have this distinction. Most of the time, this would be accurate, but there are areas in the Quran where it would be just the Quran would use sana in a positive context and am in a more negative context. And when consistency is compromised, that doubts the whole theory. Consistency is a big thing. You could think of also khawf or khashya. They both, if you are part of this school, they both would mean fear. But the thing is, and the Quran uses both in reference to Allah. خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ خَافَ رَبَّهُ. Right? Afraid of his Lord. Khashya. The same thing. يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُم. If you are part of this school, you would try and find a difference. Khawf is often driven by a sense of intimidation, while khashya is often driven by a sense of admiration and appreciation and a sense of awe, if you like, of Allah. So there is a difference between this and that. A final one maybe is how the Quran refers to whenever the Quran says imra'ata, the wife of someone, if it says imra'ata, it's often, is it the same as saying zawj? So imra'a wa zawj. If you are part of this school, you would say just the same thing. They are synonymous. The second school would say no, imra'a. Whenever the Quran uses imra'ata fir'aun, for example, it indicates that there is some form of unharmony between the couple. Imra'ata fir'aun, imra'ata Nuh, imra'ata Lut, all these did not have good relations. And if it uses zawj, it's always a harmonious relationship. That, of course, that somehow influences how we read al-ba'is wal-faqir. In Muwatta, Imam Malik, he actually has this tradition that says سمعتهم يقولون البائس هو الفقير. And I've been told, I've heard people, authorities of his day saying al-ba'is is the faqir. So there is no difference. So that's a good debate that exists in Quranic studies. I've been fluctuating in between these two positions over the years. Initially, perhaps 10, 15 years ago, I got so excited about this school. You really try and identify the differences between words but the more I advanced in my journey, I took consistency more seriously. I was more driven by precision. Every word would have to be very precise. But when I realized there is also a level of subjectivity here, it's me who is deciding what shak is. I can trace for a bit, but there is a level of subjectivity as well that is involved, which is a healthy subjectivity, and natural subjectivity is an essential part of the process anyway. But when it becomes a bit too much, then you have to pause and ask, what am I compromising here? I'm compromising consistency. Reflecting more, in the past few years, I've started to lean more towards this position, which appreciates more the stylistic variation. Perhaps one of the key words that I've been grappling with, and they were somehow distinctive in my journey grappling with this, was how the Quran uses the word qarya and Medina. Today we think of Medina as city and qarya as village. How does the Quran use these two words? In Surat Al Hajj, for example, we have this verse with Musa and Al-Khadr alayhim as-salam. استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما. So they moved, Musa and Al-Khadr, they reached that village, and they asked for some hospitality. They denied them, and the Quran uses qarya. So Musa and Al-Khadr, they moved on until they came to this village. But later when Musa alayhi salam, when Al-Khadr clarifies to Musa, he says to him, وَأَمَّا الْجِدَارُ فَكَانَ الْغُلَامَيْنِ يَتِيمَيْنِ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ. Right? Now it is referring to Medina when it was talking about a qarya a couple of verses ago. Are we talking about the same thing? Is it the same city? Are these two different places? I don't know. It could possibly be. You have this reference as well in Surah Yusuf, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا, when Yusuf's children, when Yaqub's children go back to him and they say, Benjamin has been taken by the Egyptian authorities, they refer to Egypt as a village. وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا. Is Egypt a village? It was actually the city of the day, like the civilization of the day. Is this? Can I refer this as a village? At this point, a couple of other examples, but this was really the prime example that got me to really pause for a bit and become more critical of the second view. More recently, I've developed some sort of a middle track between this and that, which I realized that each of those two groups focus on something that the other does not focus on. This one focuses more on the commonality between the two words. The second one focuses more on the difference, that they deny the commonality. And these ones focus on the commonality, that they deny the difference. What I developed here is what I call shared meaning and perhaps distinct flavor, if you like. As in, there is an overlap meaning between the two words, but yet each word would carry a specific flavor to it. That you can't deny the commonality, but in the very same time you can't deny the specificity of each word. The word, like I said here, the word faqir invokes something different to al-ba'is. In both meanings, there is this sense of poverty. Yes, that's the shared meaning. The distinct flavor is, I feel that the word ba'is is stronger than the word faqir. Could be the visibility of it, but I know I'm being moved more by the word al-ba'is than the word al-faqir. Could be because the word faqir is very common, way more common than al-ba'is. So its impact on me has become so little. If you could think of raib and shak, they both have a shared meaning, which is doubt. But shak would be a shak or a doubt that doesn't have suspicion, and raib would have a suspicion associated with it. If you could think of khawf or khashya, they both involve fear. But khawf is fear driven by intimidation, while khashya is fear driven by, a sense of awe and admiration, if you like. So there is a shared meaning here, doubt, fear, and yet every word would have a distinct flavor to it, if that makes sense. And that distinct flavor is a reality that we can't deny. Like, for example, in English, if I say, I'm not sure about this, for example. the meaning, the feeling that you get is different from the feeling that you get if I say, I think there's something wrong here. They both involve a sense of doubt, and yet there is one doubt that is associated with suspicion, and one that is associated with just a normal, formal sense of doubt. I'm not sure. I think there is something wrong. Wallahu alam. Something can be learned from both camps as we approach the Quran. There is no reason, I always say this framework, either or framework, is often dangerous. Either we have mutaradifat, synonyms, or that we don't. I think that the problem lies in this framework. We don't have to subscribe to this anyway. There are words that carry the one shared meaning, and yet they have distinct flavors to them. So I'm not denying synonyms, but in the very same time, I am saying every word would have a specific flavor to it that does some sort of a job that the other word wouldn't do as such. So that either a framework is someone that is a framework that we need to really think carefully of. Within the same context, in the next verse we have this word ثُمَّ لْيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ. Abdul Halim's translation says, so let the pilgrims perform the acts of cleansing. So tafath, and not just Abdul Halim, the vast majority of Quran commentators would say that tafath is when you come to cleanse yourself, to purify yourself. Tafathahum, to purify yourself of dirt, of after this journey of we have this state in Hajj. You don't cut your hair, you don't cut your nails, etc., until a specific moment. So there comes this point when you move away from this. In the last Quran circles, I have highlighted this rule: al-ishtiqaqu qabla al-siyaq, which is derivation before contextualization. Like, look at the word, the verb itself, or the word itself, how it is used in Arabic. Where does it derive from? Linguistically, etymologically. But the thing is, this does not work all the time. And this is a very specific case here. The word tafath is definitely an Arabic word. It does have Arabic letters. But it was never ever used before the Quran as such. Tafath. As Zajjaj, one of the key scholars of language, actually says, لا نعلم التفث إلا من القرآن. We have no knowledge of what tafath is except through the Quran. So if you trace this word to see the ishtiqaq of it, the derivation, what does it come from? It's not used. Pre-Quranic Arabs did not use this word. I'm not saying it's not an Arabic word. It is an Arabic word. It uses Arabic letters. But pre-Quranic Arabs, they haven't used this word as such. Right? So ishtiqaq in this case, if you trace the word, you won't find. It would take you nowhere. When ishtiqaq this is one of the rare situations in the Quran, by the way. Much of the Quran was in use by the time the Quran came, and the Quran really refined Arabic in various ways. In pre-Quranic Arabic, the language was so wild, like the words that very difficult to translate, very difficult to understand. The Quran refined the language, and that's why it's become the Arabic's masterpiece is the Quran. When this is the case, when you can't trace or find in the dictionaries the etymology of a specific word, you move to the siyaq, the context. Right? What is the siyaq? What's the context here? The context here, the Quran is, everyone can know naturally and easily from the context. That this is to do with removing the dirt, removing the hair, etc., etc. And we also know from the Sunnah as well. So the siyaq, be the siyaq of the Quran, the context of the Quran, or the context of the Sunnah as well, that helps define what tafath is. So ثُمَّ لِيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ. So let them end the state of dirt, if you like, state of, this sacred state, ihram, where you are restricted in so many ways. I can't really cut my nails, I can't cut my hair, I don't do this, I don't do that. So when at this point in Hajj, bring an end to this state and move to a state of purity. You can cleanse, you can clean, you can cut your nails, you can cut your hair. So how did we come to know this? We knew this from the Quran, we knew this from the Sunnah. But linguistically, what is tafath? No idea. If you trace it in dictionaries, it doesn't, I can take a step back, but it will confuse you even more. It is an Arabic, don't get me wrong, it is an Arabic word, but it's not in use. Right? So I wouldn't know what it means. Because it uses Arabic letters, but the word itself is not there. It does not carry meaning as such. But we knew the meaning from the context of the Quran, from the Sunnah as well, and it is so clear from the context. And that's the whole point. Sometimes the ishtiqaq bit, or the derivation bit, or the language bit, or the etymology bit wouldn't help, wouldn't be there. What do I do? Move to the siyaq. Look at the context. What does it mean within this context? Within the context of the Sunnah, within the context of the Quran, that will get you somewhere. Otherwise, tafath as a word is not there. Is not there as in dictionaries. In dictionaries. Too much language stuff today. My apologies. I don't know how you find this, guys, like amusing or I don't know. But just to summarize, we've seen two different schools of al-mutaradifat. One school denies, one school affirms. I like to take it out of this either or framework, and also humbles us a little as well. When you know that, there is some more research that can be done on the Quran. I recognize I don't know this. Maybe in the future I will get to understand a more distinct meaning between the Qarya and the Medina and how the Quran uses them. Allahu Alam. Maybe I will never, nobody knows. That's the nature of language as well. And also the point of ishtiqaq and siyaq. Always trace ishtiqaq, look for the derivation of the word, but there will be moments when that doesn't help, or you can't really find it. In this case, look for the siyaq, what it means, and what it says, that should help, inshallah. If you have any questions or comments, inshallah, happy to. Yes, Machine.
With the second group, you said that it prioritizes precision at the expense of consistency.
That consistency comes from the critics.
Right.
Yeah.
But as in, my question was, what if the inconsistency, as in, the point of that group is that the precision, the word choice has a purpose,
Yes.
specific purpose.
Yes. Yes.
What if the inconsistency itself has a specific purpose? Like a deliberate juxtaposition.
What would it be?
I don't know, it's just theoretical, but as in, what if, for example, if you're saying there's a difference between sana and am, what if there's like a deliberate use of the positive where you would normally use a negative? As an allusion to something, some idea.
What is it? Like, that's the thing. Like, if I don't have access to it, why would I make a theory out of it?
As in, I'm asking you, based on your research, if you think it's possible to extrapolate that.
I mean, I don't think I'm getting the point.
As in, maybe that the imprecision or the inconsistency, or that maybe that the inconsistency doesn't rule out the precision. Maybe the precision is maintained, but with a different purpose. Or I mean,
I think it's the consistency in that if we completely say all through the Quran there's a difference between Qarya and Medina, and you come across a place where there isn't a distinction, that's the breakage of consistency.
or a reversal.
In that, if you mean there is a difference and they're used to refer to the same place, then in other places there is a distinction and in this place there isn't.
As in,
That's the
for example,
inconsistency.
the reference to Egypt as a village. What if that's deliberate?
How would I know?
As in, from context. If you could find a way to understand why the sort of home of civilization is supposed to be referred to as like a belittling thing, there could be something.
If I have a justification for this, maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe the assumption itself is wrong. The assumption that there is a difference between Medina and Qarya is in and of itself baseless. I need a proof for this. What I'm trying to say, this could possibly be the case, but with no proofs, I can't just theorize this without any justification for it. I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point. Maybe the Quran deliberately is saying this, but if I don't have a proof for it, then I should just pause and say, and either say, I don't think there is a difference, and the thing is, this stylistic variation does exist in Arabic. That's what makes this view very solid, because it's internal. This is how the norms of the language, the Arabic language, work. It works with this. From my, like I said, from my side, I'm somehow in between. Arabi.
I was just going to ask for the is it so for the people from that group, for them to identify the difference between two words? Is it just by seeing how the word has been used, or do they also apply al-ishtiqaq al-siyaq?
That's a really good question. Yeah. They basically go through the Quran, and they try and locate how the Quran uses this and how the Quran uses that. So it's based on the Quranic usage of these words. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the Medina Qarya thing, but it works in the Zawj and Imra'a thing. Imra'at Fir'aun, Imra'at Nuh, Imra'at Lut. This is often the case. This is the case across the Quran. When the Quran says Imra'at Fulan, the wife of someone, it's often an unharmonious relationship. If it says Zawj or Ba'al, it's often a good relationship. So they would come to know this by tracing the Quran.
So they wouldn't look at the source of the word and...
It doesn't help. It doesn't help because often the language itself would say this. The dictionaries would say the same thing. Yeah, it doesn't help much. Yeah, sometimes they find answers, but most of the time it's just based on how the Quran uses this. That's why he said the Quran refined Arabic in various ways. As you can imagine, Arabic has so many dialects, so many tribes speak it. And the Quran comes and says, I'm picking these words out of a language, don't quote me on the numbers, but the Arabic language has over 1 million roots in terms of verbs and where they come from. What the Quran uses out of this 1 million thing is like 40,000 words the Quran uses. So 40,000 out of 1 million, maybe I have to check the numbers, but it's there. I think the ratio is there. The Quran picks a very specific number of words. So they will go back to the Quran itself most of the time. Otherwise, I didn't think the dictionaries help much with this.
Just maybe a thought more than a question. You notice in some surahs in the Quran, obviously there's like certain maybe ways of ending the verses, and some also two examples that I clear to me, Surat Al Hajj, for example, and Surat Al Qamar. Like, for example, Surat Al Qamar would always ends in the ra. So it could be like kind of like a style thing where the chosen words, all of them end with the letter ra, and there could be another synonym for the word that is used elsewhere in the Quran. But this one chosen here in this surah ends with a ra instead, kind of thing. So maybe that could be one of, not refuting, but like going against the second point of like, okay, there is that, every word is here for some reason, but in this particular surah, and in other surahs in the Quran as well, I guess,
That's a
certain kind of style, or not even just the whole surah, but even like a passage of going ending in a certain sort of way of ending. Not chosen ending could be because we want to
stick to this style.
Kind of this poetry style that impressed the Arabs at the time so much.
That's a beautiful observation, Ahmed. Absolutely. So sometimes this is, exactly, stylistic observation, stylistic variation. Surat Al Qamar is a good example. It ends with ra's all along, and therefore the Quran would be looking for words that end with ra in the first place. But the thing is, the reason I'm combining both is I am saying the Quran really transcends over these existing forms of speaking. As in, back in those days, either you spoke with precision, with very little metaphor, with very little, poetic language, or you were so poetic that you focus more on evoking specific feelings rather than precision. The reason I'm saying that I combine both, because that's the strength of the Quran. It does both jobs. It manages to remain poetic, remain beautiful in style, but in the very same time, very precise. And therefore, there is wisdom in looking at this, but also in a way that does not defile the norm of the Quran. It's the attention it gives to style. Wallahu a'lam. But that's a good point. Hafiz.
On this point, just so we don't move out, when you say transcend, that makes sense to me. But if we say that the Quran chose this word so that it fits the rhyming, as far as I know, that's not a very good justification, because they don't accept that in other types of.
Yeah, sure.
Like you choose a word just to fit the ending of.
Absolutely.
That would be a risk.
Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, what I'm trying to say is the Quran keeps it in mind that I want to preserve the style of this surah, but without compromising the meaning. Absolutely. That's one of the key challenges. Even with the greatest poets of all time, Mutanabbi, Shawqi, all these names, in a poem of 40 or 60 verses, you would pick like 2 or 3 verses that really have the strongest meaning or something. The Quran, from A to Z, is of the same depth, of the same. So of course, we're not saying the Quran does this just to fit in the style. No, it keeps it in mind, but in the very same time, it's used deliberately for for a purpose. Yeah.
My,
Sorry.
my initial
Sure.
question. It's about how we define mutaradifat. Does it linguistically mean, for linguists, that it's 100% match and overlap, or does it mean partial overlap?
The vast majority of linguists, when they say when they use the word mutaradif, they just mean the same thing. The partiality of it is only a group within linguists that they say when we use the word mutaradif, we don't really mean full agreement or full identicality, but that's not how it's often used amongst linguists. Like when they say this is a mutaradif, like the verb ata wa ja'a, they both mean to come. There is no difference. So when they say synonymous, they just mean the same thing. There is a group that says it's it doesn't mean they are identical as such. There's a difference between being identical and being similar. Right?
Yes.
Identical is literally the very same thing. Similar is very close to it. Is mutaradifat about being identical or about being similar? Linguistically, when they mean mutaradif, they often mean identical, not similar.
And this discussion in Quran studies is about the first definition, as in whether the Quran has words that are identical or it doesn't.
Yes.
And then wouldn't then the third solution lean more towards similar rather than?
Yeah,
if we're
absolutely,
denying
absolutely,
mutaradifat,
absolutely.
We're saying that what we mean by mutaradifat is overlapping meaning, not 100%.
Yeah,
match.
maybe. Yeah, absolutely. I think they are much closer to similarities rather than identicalities. But maybe similar wouldn't be the right word in this case. Perhaps nuances, maybe. More nuanced words that mean, like for example, if you in English, if you use the word home and house, you refer to the same thing, but a home it invokes a specific feeling. But they both refer to the same thing, actually. Job and career, right? They both mean the same thing, but what they invoke is different. Somehow, there is an overlap, definitely, but there is also a distinct. If you say someone is skinny and someone is thin, do they invoke any difference in your minds? Yeah. I have.
I think the third approach is
It's flawed.
it is very exciting. I was just wondering how we can apply it to some verses, because I think there are some verses that we might bump into which I think require more attention. For example, in Surat Saba, وحيل بينهم وبين ما يشتهون كما فعل بأشياعهم إنهم كانوا في شك مريب. When these two meanings or these two words that are according to some synonyms and according to not are not are next to each other. So the Quran is saying they are إنهم كانوا في شك مريب. They have, if I was to translate according to our meanings, they had doubt without suspicion. That is a doubt with suspicion. So there, I think we have to. You may sometimes, I think, choose either. The Quran is speaking about it's either stylistic variation, or there is some precision that we don't know what the precision is about.
That's a really good example. Yeah, that's a really good example. I think it actually may serve what I was saying here. The third thing. How I would translate this is the Quran uses the word shak in this verse, as in that it's a doubt that is free of suspicion. It's as if the Quran is qualifying the nature of the shak itself. They have doubt, but this doubt was of the nature that is that's a suspicious one, rather than just being a doubt that is free of suspicion. in a way that does not disturb the style of the surah. If you look at this last page of Surah Saba, it uses this rhyming. So exactly. So it doesn't disturb that. Right? If it says la إنهم كانوا في شك and then pauses, that would definitely disrupt the style of the surah. So it serves both. It saves the style, but it also clarifies and qualifies the nature of the shak itself. It was not just doubt; it was actually a suspicious doubt. You know, it will only be absurd if you translate it as they were in doubt that lacks suspicion, but it is suspicious. I mean, no, I wouldn't do it this way. But it's more. I would use it more as a qualification, because I said they do share the point of doubt, but then the Quran qualifies and says it's actually the one that is doubtful, the one that is suspicious. Sorry.
I see.
Allahu A'lam. I mean, it does. I mean, I can't claim that I have exhausted the Quran. It's just it would take some good research as well, like more examples.
There's another example.
Mm.
For example, the start of Surat Al Hajj and the start of Surat Al-Naml.
Mm.
تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين. وتلك one of them. تلك آيات الكتاب وقرآن مبين.
Mm.
So is the Quran referring to two books or one?
Muhammad Shahrur talks about this. Whether when the Quran says kitab, the Quran is referring to al Kitab, that is the Lawh al-Mahfuz, and then when it says the Quran, it refers to this Quran that we have, or it's both. Could also mean the same thing. The Quran is both. The Quran is written, which is kitab, maktub, but also the Quran is maqru', as in recited and read. So the two titles apply to it. It's a kitab in the sense that it is written. It's also Quran in the sense that it is recited and read vocally. So it is both. So it is describing two distinct features of the Quran. It is written but also recited.
I see. As in, is it relevant to the question of synonyms?
They both, in the sense that they both refer to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is this book that we have. But two different phases or two different features of it. It is written, so it's a kitab, maktub. It is also recited and read in the sense that it is maqru'. So هو مكتوب ومقروء. مكتوب كتاب مقروء Quran.
I see. So if we were to use that third approach, it refers to the same meaning.
The same meaning.
The same text, but distinct flavors.
Exactly. So one distinct feature of the Quran is that it is written. So we can call it a kitab, but it is also something that we recite all the time. So it's maqru', it's Quran. That's where the word Quran comes from anyway. Something that all people read and recite all the time. Maktub, it is written. It's also written. Well, that's another good example, mashallah. Any other comments or questions? Mariam? Yes.
It's a linguistic question about are there a third group about language? For example, you say the symmetry. It's two different words have the same meaning, right?
Mm.
Are there one word have a different meaning, like the English word spring? It can be the season, or can be the physical concept, and also can be the water.
Did you say that the spring?
Yeah, as an example, for example, English word spring, it can be have different meanings.
Mm.
I was just gonna say ayn.
Ayn. As in,
It's one word that means multiple meanings rather than multiple meanings.
oh, that's a different phenomenon then. This is called mutaradif. What you're talking about is called al-mushtarak al-lafzi. It's almost the opposite of this. Here we have two words that mean almost the same thing. Here we have one word that mean many different things.
Yes.
So that's not relevant to that.
Yes.
That's a different phenomena.
Yeah, I just wonder in the Arabic language, are there
Oh, it does, absolutely. Actually, it's the source of this. It's so rich with this. Like Arabi said, we have the word ayn. What does ayn mean? It means an eye, spy, spring.
Like if you use the same word in English.
What else?
The high or the elite of a society.
Elite people.
The heart of something, ayn shay, like the essence. The gist of
The heart of something. Gold. Shams, sun. La, sun. No, not sun. So for all these we have one single word. So it does exist, of course.
Okay, thanks.
And the word, we have there are many examples for this. Yeah.
So in case where it has like multiple meanings, we should care about the context more, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The context is there. Like it has to always be there. Definitely.
I mean, like it would come like before al-ishtiqaq or before.
Mm. No, I would definitely go to the ishtiqaq first.
Okay.
But there would be cases when the ishtiqaq wouldn't help, like tafath. But this is so uncommon. So I would check the ishtiqaq first and then move to the siyaq. If I couldn't find anything in the ishtiqaq bit, I move to the siyaq. Yeah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك إن شاء الله. We'll see you guys next week بإذن الله إن شاء الله.
Thank you.
إياكم إن شاء الله.